one afternoon, the Russian lady who lives below me knocks on my door, sound effect,
Oh, I like
and
that.
she says, "Rat in toilet, you come." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Rat in toilet." See, we lived above a pizza parlor.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in New York lives above a pizza parlor. So
Mm-hmm.
there were lots of rats and mice, but I didn't have them because I had a cat.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, maybe I need another cat. So I forced myself to go to a shelter, and it was the end of the day, and they said, "We're about to close. You can't adopt anything, but if you want to look for later," and I'm like, "That's perfect because I don't want to commit."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
go inside and it's dark, like they started turning off the lights, and all the cats are asleep. So I'm like, well, this sucks, and I'm about to leave, and then I hear this scraping noise, and at my eye level, it's it's a cat is in a cage, this huge black fat cat with a way too small head, and he's in his litter box taking a big smelly dump,
Oh,
and I'm like, Jesus. And I go like, well, I'm out of here. So I start to walk out, and then the cat meows. He goes, meow. And I turn around, and what I hear is help. And I
yeah.
walk
Yeah.
back, and the cat, is meowing and rubbing its head against the bars. And I'm like, fuck. So I go back out, and I said, she says, you can't adopt one. I said, no, that's fine. I just wanted to ask about that black, fat one with a little head. And she goes, oh, she goes, do you want him? And I said, well, I don't know, maybe. She goes, well, if you want him, you can take him today. And she said, may I ask why
Yeah.
you want this cat? And I said, well, I looked at the sign. It said it was 8 years old and nobody's going to adopt an 8-year-old cat. She said, well, it was adopted, but they brought it back.
Uh-oh.
Right. But she
That's a
didn't
red
specify
flag.
exactly. She didn't say why, which is a bad sign. But all of a sudden, she's thrusting me this cardboard box in my arm, saying, here, take him.
Yeah.
So I go, I flag a cab, and I'm in the cab thinking, I am a really good person. I'm taking this cat, and I'm sitting there thinking, I feel warm. And then I literally started to feel warmth. I was like, wow, I'm having a physical feeling of warmth because I'm so great. And then I started to feel wet.
Oh.
And the cat was pissing through the cardboard box
Oh.
onto my lap.
Oh.
Yeah. And I had to tell the cab driver when he pulled up, well, thankfully, he had leather seats. I said, I'll run into the parlor and get some napkins and clean your car. So then I take this, which was lovely. So then I walk up the 6 flights of steps with
Yeah.
this wet box. I release the cat into my studio apartment, and he's this blobby, fat, gassy thing. And he starts sniffing around. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he's sniffing for mice. And he sniffs and he jumps on my futon. And then I see him squat down, and I'm going, no. And before I can stop him, he pisses all over it.
Oh.
So I'm like, okay, he's smelling. I wasn't smelling the cat piece so well with the napkin. So he's smelling my dead cat, and he's marking his territory. So I read somewhere that cats don't like aluminum foil.
Hmm.
This was before the internet. God knows where I heard that. So I
Wait,
go to
cats don't like aluminum foil?
why they would know that,
I'm
or
gonna have to test that out. You mean if you like show some aluminum foil to your cat, you're like, no.
I guess it's like a microwave. Like you put it by them and they
It's like
just
a
zap.
microwave.
So I would go to the bodega and I buy like 5 rolls of Reynolds wrap, and I come back up and 6 floors, and I wrap my entire futon in aluminum foil.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, there you go, cat. And by the way, I've named him Sluggo because I thought it sounded gross, and he was gross. And Sluggo looks at it, jumps on it, and then just pees on one section, moves over to the other, pees on that, and then pees on the third. So now I have collected urine puddles.
Oh my
And
God. That's no
so
way to start a life with a cat.
so I'm like, I better call I better call the place where I adopted him because I'm like, okay, now I'm understanding why he was returned. So I call him up, and whoever answers, I said, "Hey, I have the cat that I adopted from you, and it's peeing all over my couch." He said, "Well, that sucks. I'd bring him back." And then I hear the woman who adopted him to me. She jumps on the phone and she says, "You know, don't bring him back. Lock him in the bathroom until he pees in the litter box." And I'm thinking, I don't want to lock a cat in the bathroom. And she goes, "Well, if you bring him back here, he will not get adopted." So I stick him in my bathroom for a couple, 2 days, feeding him, and he finally uses the litter box.
You did.
So, but then another problem happens. I develop a horrible allergy to him. I've never been allergic to cats, but now I'm sneezing, I have red eyes, I'm like, how am I supposed to keep this cat? This is a sign from God. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But
But you have to keep it because it will die otherwise.
exactly. And I'm kind of tired of like killing animals because my cat Bob, it's his fault, my fault that I didn't
Believe
take
me,
him.
you do not want that on your conscience. I'll tell you that.
So
You
I
have to make
decide,
up for it a lot with cats after cat after cat.
and ducks.
And ducks.
So, and alligators too, but that's another story. But anyway, so I was going to call a vet to find out what I could do. And I thought, well, I better not call my vet because I've never picked up the ashes. So I just choose a vet at random. And somebody gets on the phone and I said, "Is there anything you can do if you're allergic to a cat?" And he says, "Well, you can try Downy fabric softener."
What?
Yeah.
This is to prevent you from being allergic. You're going to use Downy fabric softener on the cat.
Well, at first I said, "On me?" I was like, and he goes, "No, on the cat." And I was like, and he said, so I go, okay. I hang up the phone. I go to the bodega. They only have one bottle of Downy fabric softener, lightly scented in lilac. I bring it back up. I'm like, I don't know how much to put on. So I kind of, pour it on him, rub it in. And by this time I'm exhausted. And so I go to bed.
You
And
just left it on him?
well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much I left on. I was just,
This is turning into a very dark story.
So I go to bed and about 4 a.m. I wake up and I hear these gurgling noises and I switch on the light and Sluggo is in bed, glassy eyed, foaming. Yeah. So I'm like, holy shit. I pick him up and I run to the bathtub and I get in the bathtub with him and I put him under the water. And so I'm rinsing him and he's just like collapsing in my arms. Like it's not reviving him. So I pull him out and now he's like, just flopping around. So I'm in my pajamas, but I know like this time I really do have to go to the emergency vet, the one I didn't go to before. So I go downstairs at 4 a.m.
You're being arrested.
I know I should be. I get in a cab with this dying cat, just this wet, bubbling cat. And I go to the emergency vet in my pajamas and I come in. And by the time they let me in and the doctor says, "What's going on?" And I said, "My cat's been poisoned." And he said, "Do you know with what?" And I said, "Yeah, Downy fabric softener." And he says, "How do you get in Downy fabric softener?" And I said, "I put it on him." And he looks at me and he said, "Why did you do that?"
Yeah.
I said, "Because this vet told
The
me
vet
to."
told you to. It's
And
not
he
like you're a
does
cat torturer or something.
Right. And this vet does not believe me. He's like I'm trying to so he doesn't know what to do either. So we call the Procter and Gamble poison hotline. But they don't have any protocol regarding the use of Downy fabric softener on a
On
cat.
cats.
I was
Not recommended usage, I don't think.
I was the very first case. So they didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
So the vet says, "Well, I don't know what to tell you, go home and maybe he'll recover." And then he charges me.
Whoa.
So I'm like, I take the cat and I go back outside in my pajamas. I take a bus because it's now like 7 a.m. And I take the bus I find out where the original vet is. And I take a bus with him and I demand to see him. And I walk in and I go, my cat is dying because of Downy fabric softener. And he's like, what? And he said, how'd that happen? I said, I put it on him. And he looks at me like, why? I go, because you told me to. And he says, well, how much did you put on? And I'm like, I don't know, like I didn't know that you didn't tell me. And then he said, well, what kind of Downy fabric softener?
Lavender.
Lightly scented lilac.
Oh,
And he
lilac.
said, why would you put scented fabric softener on them? And I'm like, I never would have put any fabric softener on him at all. So he goes, well, I don't know what to tell you. You just go home and he should get over it. And he charges me. So
I hope this is going to end well.
I get back on the
Getting
bus.
scared now.
I get back on the bus and Sluggo's in my lap.
Yeah.
He starts to come to, he starts looking at me and I'm thinking, I've done a horrible deed to this cat. And it looks at me like I'm its savior. And he starts purring and he rubs against me. And I was like, I did save him in that I rescued him. And I start to feel like I am a good person. And he brought me out of my depression because I got over my allergies and he lived another 8 years.
8 years. Oh, thank God.
But
I
I
was
still think
frightened.
Procter & Gamble owes me for the vet bills.
Yeah, and I'm still not letting you cat sit anytime soon. I'll tell you that.